So, what is the best speed boot in 2024? Well,
There's a lot.
and honestly, making this top 5 list that we're gonna do today has given me some of the toughest decisions in a while, because the boots just keep getting better and better every year. And this year's lineup of speed boots, it's borderline ridiculous how good it is. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you what I think are the top 5 best speed boots in 2024, with, of course, all the latest releases, and a boot in first place that I don't think everyone would expect. And we can kick things off in 5th place with, and I realize how stupid this is gonna sound, the Adidas F50 Messi Elite. Yep, 5th place, which shouldn't really be, because this is a phenomenal pair of football boots and a really, really good speed boot. I mean, the Hypertouch upper here in itself is a staple. I mean, it's so soft, fits really, really well. The boot is rather sleek and streamlined and feels fast like you would expect an F50 boot to do, but it's also rather accommodating with a really nice fit here. And it's just a boot that I enjoy to wear a lot. It's thin, it's light, it has a good feeling on the ball, and for me personally, I think that it's in the top 3 for best new boots of 2024. However, this is a speed boot list, and I also gotta be honest and say that I feel there's one thing that's holding it back a little bit compared to its competitors, and that is the outsole, which I feel could have been a little bit snappier and more responsive in the forefoot, and also could have had some slightly more aggressive studs. And there is also an argument to be made that the regular 50 Elite just feels ever so slightly more locked in compared to the Messis, because the burrito style tongue here doesn't sit as closely around the foot as the compression fit tongue in the regular boot does. However, I just like the Messi version a little bit more, and for me it's just, yeah, 5th place, it sucks. But I also just have to be real and say that I feel there are 4 boots that does it slightly better, in terms of being a speed boot at least. This isn't even on the list. What is this year? But one of the boots for me that does it slightly better is the Nike Mercurial Vapor 16 Elites. And I know, have I lost my damn mind? 4th? Well, look, here's the thing. I love the Vapor 16 Elite. I think it's an outstanding pair of football boots that does a little bit of everything. It's a very generally appealing boot. Personally, I love myself a grip knit upper, and this is no exception. It's super soft. It fits so well. It's very sleek and sock-like. It has a healthy amount of grip, which I personally like. And it's just one of those boots that feel very tiptoey and almost invites you to take the ball and dribble with it, try things. And I love that. Obviously, you also have the Zoom Air unit as the strobel under the forefoot, which has this really comfortable, slightly bouncy, connected feel in the boot, but also isn't the most like really fast and super hardcore responsive feel in the world when you push off either, which is personally something I'm looking for in a speed boot. So comfortable, but from a speed point of view, I have other preferences at least. The outsole, the stock configuration, I think is one of the best around for actual speed, so can't complain there. But I could have done with a little bit more stiffness and responsiveness in the midfoot again, and also slightly more lockdown in the midfoot, like we got in the 15. But overall, outstanding pair of boots. I just feel that there are boots that as a package do it better for speed. Because I think that the Ultra Ultimate here, which is in 3rd, does a lot of the same things that the Vapor does. It has a super soft textile mesh upper here, which is really comfortable and sleek and accommodating at the same time. It's a really, really nice upper material. It's also on the tacky side, meaning that there's a healthy amount of grip on the ball. Actually, so much that sometimes when we film, I get stuck on the ball and I slip. So definitely need to get used to that, but it's a really, really nice upper that feels speedy and also just extremely personal. On the flip side here, you have some very aggressive studs. I think they are as aggressive, if not more, than on the Mercurials. You really feel how they dig into the ground and just help you push off under the forefoot. And actually also, I feel that the outsole, the snapback is just snappier than in the Mercurial, and I also think that there's better lockdown in the midfoot in this compared to the Mercs. And all of that bundled together means that I feel the Ultras are just a bit more responsive than the Mercurials and just as comfortable. So for me, I might be leaning slightly towards the Mercs, 50-50, it's hard to decide, but as a speed boot, I feel that the Ultra Ultimate is just a slightly better package, slightly more complete. But hold on, Jay, why the Ultimate and not the Carbon, which is like the top speed machine from Puma? It's a good question, and while I do think that the Carbon here is probably one of the wildest speed experiences I've ever had, the most aggressive feeling underfoot ever for me, I also think that it's just so extreme that it becomes a little bit of a niche thing for people looking for that very, very, very hardcore sensation. And for me, the Ultimate is just a little bit more balanced. And personally, I like that ever so slightly more. And it's a little bit more nimble and so, you know, personal taste. But what if I told you that it gets slightly better and even cheaper in second place, where I have the Sokito Scudetta that is 200 euros and weighs 182 grams, so it's the second lightest boot, 3 grams heavier than the Mercurial. But to me, this is kind of the reincarnation of the 2014 F50 Addy Zero, which I loved. I just think this is slightly better because of the heel. Obviously, the big showstopper here is the BioTouch forefoot, the Vamp here, which is stupidly soft out of the box, and it only gets softer as you break it in. It's also important to say that if you want to wear the Scudetta, you'll need to be okay with a rather snug, close, and, you know, pretty personal fit. But because the upper is so soft, it was never a problem for me, and I actually enjoyed that rather, you know, one-to-one, really close feel to the boot, and in turn also the ball. I mentioned the heel. I think it's great. Fits really well, and it also has a super well balanced lock-in that's very pleasant. And also with this non-stretch mesh in the midfoot, you have really good lockdown there, so it feels secure when you're moving around in this. Obviously, the outsole here, it has a nylon strobo board on the inside, which makes it really, really snappy. It bends well, but it has this vibe as it returns to the shape, which feels great when you push off. Obviously, the stop pattern here it's really aggressive, probably not as aggressive in like a linear direction as the Mercurials, the Ultras, the Razors, and the Furons. But I think that when you push off even in the slightest angle, it just bites so well, feels extremely versatile while being fast, and I really like that. So this might not be the most innovative speed boot on the list, but it just does this whole thing of making a traditionally minimal yet very comfortable speed boot thing super well. But as always, before we get to number one, I have some honorable mentions that I kind of need to talk to myself here, because the Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta Japan is not on the list, which in itself is a bit of a travesty, but it might be one of the best football boots overall, generally on the market, that does everything. 185 grams, super sleek, extremely comfortable, high quality premium materials. If only it had had bladed studs, it would be cooking. There's also the New Balance Furon V7 Plus, which is, by all accounts, also a very good boot. The upper is ridiculously soft. It's a great streamlined fit. Could do with a little bit more lockdown in the midfoot, and while the outsole is solid, it's also not like, I didn't drop my jaw when I tried it. So very good boot, also deserves a mention. And finally, this one. The Skechers Razor 1.5 Elite. And I sound a little bit depressed in my voice, and I know, but that's because this boot deserves to be on the list, and it deserves to be high up on the list because it is a very good speed boot. Teishin upper is super soft, no complaints, very good fit through the midfoot, decent heel, and the outsole is actually really, really good. And if you have a wide foot, it might be perfect. You could take this and slap it right in second place and no one could complain. It was a really, really tough choice to leave. I have a little thing with the heel, and honestly, this could and probably should have been on the list as well. Can we make it like, can I make my own rules here? It's like, But my friends, we cannot delay anymore, because in my book, the best speed boot on the market is still the Mizuno Alpha Japan, which is coming up on being 2 years old this year. So how on earth can none of the new speed boots with all the latest innovations not beat this one? Well, to me, that is because the Alpha does everything so well. And, obviously the upper here, it might not be the softest upper, but it's one of the closest ones. It's super pliable. It's basically this textile mesh and foam-based upper that has a foam skeleton. So while it is really soft and fits both slim and slightly wider feet really, really well, it also gives you this really impressive amount of stability and lockdown because of the foam skeleton that just hugs the foot and keeps it in place. And that gets better because you have this zero glide sticky liner on the heel and on the insole, meaning that it goes in, it grabs the sock, and it prevents a lot of movement of your foot inside of the boot. So just a really, really comfortable but secure feeling inside of the Alpha. Now, my only but on the Alpha is the outsole, more specifically the triangular studs that could have been, if they were bladed, awesome, but they're aggressive enough. And then you have the Carvo insert here, which is this carbon fiber-like material that is really stiff and just offers the most lovely snapback that it feels so aggressive when you push off. That's very, very good. And that, combined with one of the best fits I personally get in a football boot that is accommodating, the stability, the lockdown, just means that for me, the Alpha is the closest thing you'll get to the perfect speed boot package. It's light, but it's also expensive, 320 euros, which is a bit silly, if I'm honest. However, it's the Rolls-Royce of speed boots, and you pay for quality. But if it's a bit too much for you, there's also the 200 euro Mizuno Alpha Elite, which is not made in Japan, it's made in Indonesia. And while the upper and the outsole is not exactly the same, it's very, very similar. And that boot, alongside the Scudetta, is one of the best value for money boots around. Period. But this is amazing. And that concludes the list of what I think are the 5 best speed boots in 2024. And I'll be honest, it's been a really hard list to make, and I'm not happy that I can't just squeeze everything in, because there are so many good speed boots out there at the moment, and it's actually really hard to make a bad choice. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the F50 Plus, but it does something unique and does that thing rather well, some other things not so well, but in general, it's just, there's so many options, and most of them are really good. But what is your personal favorite speed boot right now? Well, let me know what it is and why in the comment section right down below. Remember that you can buy all of the speed boots in the link to Unisport right over there. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so with the notifications on. And if you want to watch reviews of all the boots on the list, you can click the playlist right down there. With those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio. That was lame.